Notre Dame fans know all about the Irish, but what about the Hurricanes? Today, a Miami insider joins the show to reveal where the Canes are strongest, where they're vulnerable, and what kind of game to expect on Sunday night in Hard Rock Stadium. That's coming right up.
You are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome in. This is Locked On Irish, your daily Notre Dame podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wojciak. I'm a Notre Dame alum, producer at Fox Sports, and I've been covering the Irish since 2020. Thank you for joining me here on Thursday, August 28th, and for making this your first watch or listen of the day. Before we get rolling here, be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube and follow along wherever you get your podcasts. That way, you stay up to date on our daily coverage of Notre Dame football, and it helps keep this show free. And don't forget, tomorrow is our Friday mailbag show, so get your questions in. You can drop them below in the YouTube comments or send them to me on X at Locked On Irish or on Instagram at Locked On Irish Pod. We have had all kinds of preview content on the show this week, and we're going to keep that rolling today. We kick things off on Monday with Luke Smith to do our 6th annual preseason award show, which is always a lot of fun. This week was no different. On Tuesday, I went through Notre Dame's entire 2025 schedule to provide game-by-game breakdowns, and then I shared my official record prediction for the season. And yesterday was all about the Miami game. I went deep on Miami's offense, defense, and special teams, shared my prediction for the game, my keys to the game for the Irish. We're going to keep that going today, but this time I'm going to flip the script to hear the perspective from the Miami side of things. Today, I'm bringing in one of the best on the Hurricanes beat, Manny Navarro from The Athletic. We're going to find out what he is most confident in with this Miami team after an offseason filled with turnover, what their biggest question mark is, how big this game is for Mario Cristobal, and what kind of atmosphere Notre Dame fans should expect in Hard Rock Stadium. Plus, we'll get into Miami's offense, defense, and ultimately how he sees this game playing out. Enjoy. All right, I am very excited to welcome in Manny Navarro from The Athletic. He is also the host of the Wide Right podcast, and he's been one of my go-to sources this offseason to learn more about the Hurricanes. So, Manny, first off, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I want to start with a big picture question. At the beginning of every season, there are always a lot of unknowns, especially for a team like Miami that experienced significant roster turnover and coaching staff changes this offseason. So when you look at this matchup, what is one thing that you feel most confident about Miami going into this game?
Yeah, I think number one, that Miami is prepared to face a team as good as Notre Dame on the offensive and defensive lines. Like obviously, Marcus Freeman and all of his predecessors at Notre Dame have been great at recruiting offensive and defensive linemen and being ready for some of these physical battles. That's why Notre Dame has been such a great program for so many years. They know that it takes winning at the line of scrimmage. And I think Mario Cristobal has done a really good job since coming to Miami at crafting his team to be ready for these big physical bouts with SEC, Big Ten caliber teams, and so I think 4 years ago, had this game taken place, under the same circumstances, I wouldn't be as confident in Miami and being prepared to play up front. I think they're ready for a physical confrontation with Notre Dame.
On the flip side of that, what's the biggest question mark you have about the Hurricanes going into week one?
Yeah, certainly wide receivers. I think this is a position that Miami was very, very good at last year when they had Cam Ward under center at quarterback. And I'm fully confident Carson Beck is going to do a good job. He's 24-3 as a starter in the SEC, played in a lot of big football games. So I'm not worried at all about him or his elbow. I saw him throwing the football here in the fall camp several times, and a lot of zip on the ball. Looked like the guy that we heard a lot about in terms of the NFL draft a couple of years ago before he had the injury. So he looks very much the same from a throwing perspective. My question is about the receiver room, because Xavier Restrepo is gone. Jacoby George is gone. Elijah Royal, your tight end, who was a second-round draft pick of the Seattle Seahawks, is gone. So, who are these new young weapons that Carson Beck is going to be throwing the ball to? There's certainly some talent on there. JoJo Trader was a top 50 recruit coming out of high school. Elijah Lofton, really talented second-year tight end, a guy that they're really excited about in the staff. But this is going to be the first time any of those guys have to step into the big shoes and be the go-to player, so to speak, in this offense. Malachi Toney, a true freshman who they're very excited about in the slot. They think he could be better than Xavier Restrepo, who became the all-time leading receiver in Miami history. But it's his first game, right? It's the first time he's going to put on the pads. And oh, by the way, Notre Dame has a hellacious secondary. So good and experienced, and so many guys who played in games on the way to the national championship game last year. So it's a heck of a challenge for a really young and inexperienced receiver group.
To me, the Mario Cristobal era has not been linear, but he's gotten the program back as a legitimate college football playoff contender. And to me, it feels like his first 3.5 years have been building towards an opportunity like this one on Sunday night. I know there's going to be a lot of people there, top recruits. It feels like Miami's putting everything into this game. So how important is it for Mario Cristobal and this program?
Certainly have to look good on TV, right? This isn't the kind of game you want to go into, especially in light of the way last season ended, where you blew a 21-point lead at Syracuse and missed a chance to make the college football playoff. That's basically what people remember about last year. And this is a Miami team that started 9-0 and had the number one offense in the country. I think for Mario, it's about looking prepared for the moment, looking like they deserve to be on the field and belong to be on the field with Notre Dame and competitive with Notre Dame. So, look, win or lose, Miami's season is going to come down to how they do an ACC play and whether or not they get to the ACC championship game. I think they're probably going to need to be an 11-1, 10-2 type team to have a shot at making the playoff. Clemson, we know, is very, very good. So you have a whole season to play out. But I think week one against Notre Dame, you have to look like you belong on the field, because there's going to be a lot of recruits in attendance watching this game, wanting to see that Miami has really evolved, as you said, under Mario Cristobal, and is ready for the moment.
For Notre Dame fans making the trip, what should they expect from the environment at Hard Rock Stadium on Sunday night? Because everyone remembers how crazy it was back in 2017. So are you expecting another rowdy and hostile crowd?
Without question, this is a rivalry that for the diehard Miami fans that is special. It's different than many of the other rivalries they've had over the years with other programs. There is a love-hate relationship, right, with a very passionate, strong relationship with Notre Dame.
I was going to say, I don't know if it's a love-hate. It seems pretty one-sided.
Well, love-hate in the sense of just it's that strong. It's almost like,
right.
It's either or. It's not indifference whatsoever. It's a very emotional, angry breakup type of thing for Miami fans, because they feel like Notre Dame walked away from the rivalry in the early 90s and feel like that they chickened out on playing Miami every single year. Now, granted, Miami didn't hold up their end of the bargain pretty much for the better part of the last 30 years in terms of being a competitive team on a national scale. But, it for a lot of Miami fans, it sticks in their craw that Notre Dame walked away from the series. And so there was a lot of animosity between the programs back in the 80s and 90s. So I think ultimately they can expect to be in a loud, raucous environment. And if you're wearing a Notre Dame shirt, I'm pretty sure nobody's going to put their arm around you and welcome you to Hard Rock.
All right, we've hit the big picture storylines, and when Manny gets back, we're going to dive into what to expect from Miami's offense with Carson Beck and a rebuilt receiving corps. But before we get to that, a word from Upside. Hey, Irish fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Today's episode is also brought to you by SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their TradeMaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free TradeMaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit SupplyHouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, let's focus on the offense. With offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson in year 3, Carson Beck taking over at quarterback, a lot of new receivers, but some real talent at running back and a strong offensive line. What do you expect Miami's offensive identity to be in the season opener?
Yeah, I think they have to come out and establish the run behind their two best offensive linemen. That's the right side of that offensive line, and Inez Cooper and Francis Maui-Noa, 3-year starters, guys that they believe are NFL type players. And so I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle and Marty Brown, the transfer from North Dakota State. I think all three of those guys are going to be catching balls out of the backfield. I think they're going to be involved in the passing game quite a bit and running the football a ton. So I think this is a game that Miami wants to win at the line of scrimmage. They want to control the football. They want to limit turnovers, and they want to put pressure on CJ Carr to deliver. And look, he's got a great supporting cast around him. But I think from an offensive perspective, it's let's not give Notre Dame the football on our side of the field. Let's not make a short field for Jeremiah Love and what they've got on their side of the ball. Let's make them go 80, 90 yards, and let's push the ball down the field and control the clock as much as possible.
We've seen Carson Beck thrive at Georgia, especially in 2023. He was awesome that season, but his production dipped last season. He's coming off major elbow surgery. What is your sense of his comfort level in this system, but also with the skilled players because he missed all of spring practice?
Yeah, Carson spent a lot of time with every single one of his receivers during spring football. He actually dedicated a day, each day of spring ball, just watching one player, one receiver, one skill player on his offense. And basically, once practice was over, he followed them to the film room and sat down with them and talked to them. Where do you like the football? Which shoulder, which hand, which side of your body do you prefer to catch it on? This is what I'm seeing when you're running a route. Some of the things that you're doing that I think I can do to help you get the football or be more comfortable with the ball. So he is everything I've heard about him is he's a very astute and cerebral player, and he cares about his teammates, and he wants to be a guy who puts them in the best position possible to succeed. So I think he spent a lot of time in the spring dedicated to just getting to know his teammates, and since then he's been playing football and throwing passes and inviting him over to his house and kind of getting to know these guys on a personal level. So we'll see how it all shakes up on Sunday night. But I think he's done a good job. He's done his job from what I've heard in terms of trying to be that guy who just comes in and takes over for Cam Ward and that this offense doesn't skip a beat.
Miami was one of the most fun offenses to watch in college football last season because Cam Ward could do all kinds of stuff. Sometimes he would just put on the cape and be Superman, but he also loved to push the ball downfield. So how do you expect this offense to change schematically with Carson Beck at quarterback compared to Cam Ward?
Yeah, I think a little bit more play action than what you saw with Cam Ward. I think they're going to give Carson the freedom to audible at the line of scrimmage the same way Cam did, and a lot of that has to do with Shannon Dawson trusting Carson and his experience and the number of big games that he's played in over his career. But ultimately, I think you're going to see a little bit more of a balanced approach. Miami threw the ball a ton last year with Cam Ward. I think they were trying to win him the Heisman Trophy, and at one point it looked like he was going to be the favorite before they lost to Syracuse. I think this is going to be a team that, again, I mentioned the three-headed backfield with Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle and Marty Brown. I think you're going to see each of those guys touch the ball more than the running backs did a year ago, and I think play action is going to be a big part of this offense.
With so many new players at wide receiver and a young tight end in Elijah Lofton, who I think is going to be awesome. He's big, he's athletic. Like, who do you expect will have the biggest impact on the outside in this game?
Yeah, I think if JoJo Trader is healthy, and we've heard some things about him being a little nicked up during camp, if JoJo Trader is 100% healthy, he is your biggest threat on the outside in terms of speed and ability and talent. He is the playmaker. He is the perfect X receiver for you in this offense. Now, they have other guys that they're certainly excited about. I think Malachi Tony is a true freshman that they have big expectations for. I think they've got some guys that are, with veteran talent that came in off the transfer portal, that could be contributors as well for them. But ultimately, it's going to come down to those guys, JoJo Trader, who's a sophomore, and Malachi Tony to create the big plays. I think CJ Daniels is a steady sort of veteran, but ultimately, it's the young guys that I think are going to have to be special for Miami in this game.
So when you look at how Miami is going to approach their offensive philosophy in this game, I think it's probably going to change as the year goes on, right? As Beck gets more comfortable with all these new wide receivers, they might air it out a little bit more. But going into this game, we've already talked about all of his big game experience. Do you expect Cristobal and the offensive coordinator to rely more on Beck to kind of lead the charge in this game? Or do you think they'll focus more on the run, winning in the trenches, and then hoping that this 3 running back group can sort of carry the way?
Yeah, I think the game plan was probably to run the football first and to establish the run. But it's always comes down to your quarterback. And as I mentioned, Carson Beck has the freedom to make audibles at the line of scrimmage, to change the play if he sees something that he doesn't like. He's earned that right from Shannon Dawson because of his experience, because of the big games he's played in. So it always comes down to your quarterback in the end and what decisions he makes. But I think from a philosophical standpoint and what they're going to try to do first, I think it starts with the run.
Looking at the matchup between Miami's offense and Notre Dame's defense, is there one matchup that you think favors Notre Dame going into this one?
Yeah, certainly their defensive backs or corners against these young receivers. I mean, these are guys that have played a ton of big games, on the way to the national championship last year. I think it's, anybody handicapping this from the back, from the back of the room can tell you Christian Gray and Aiden Schuler and Leonard Moore are guys that have played a lot of football that are going to be big. Play big roles in this game. And certainly, Devonta Smith comes over from Alabama. So much starting experience there. Whereas Miami's receiver room, again, very, very young. Yes, they went out and they got some transfers, but ultimately the talent and the playmaking ability are the freshmen, the JoJo Traders of the world. So to me, I think Notre Dame has a distinct advantage in the secondary.
Flipping over to the defense, we know that's what held them back last year, but they bring in Corey Heatherman from Minnesota, who did a fantastic job with the Gophers, and now he's tasked with revamping that side of the ball. Miami also added 6 projected starters from the portal, so everyone expects improvement. I think that's fair to say. But just how much better do you think that this defense can realistically be right out of the gate?
Yeah, communication was the buzzword for Miami's defense all spring and all the fall camp. And you go back and you look at what happened in that Syracuse game and what happened in some of the games that they struggled defensively, where they gave up more than 40 points. And there was just a lot of breakdowns in terms of motion and following receivers in motion and who's covering who. I think they've eradicated a lot of that. Corey Heatherman's goal coming in was to simplify things for their cornerbacks and safeties. And they went out and they got Zachariah Poyser, who was all conference type player in Conference USA last season on a Jacksonville State team that was really, really good under Rich Rodriguez. And he's going to be wearing the green dot on his helmet. He's a guy that has a lot of experience. Last season, 13 starts, over 800 snaps. So I think you got an upgrade at the safety spot. And you mentioned all the guys in the secondary who played football last year and have over double-digit career starts. Ethan O'Connor comes over, a guy that played a ton at Washington State. Xavier Lucas is super talented young guy that they're really excited about. OJ Frederic is back from Miami, a guy who started 9 games as a freshman. So I think that a lot of the issues that they had on the back end are going to be cleaned up because there's just more talent, and I think there's better leadership from the safety position.
Manny will be right back with us in a moment to share his thoughts, but before we get to that, I wanted to let you know that Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show description. Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. College football is back, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there is just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It is the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Just pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Ruben Bay in headlines. It looks like a very talented defensive line. They also have Justin Scott, who is a name that Notre Dame fans are very familiar with. They recruited him very hard out of high school before he committed to Ohio State and then eventually flipped to Miami. But how disruptive do you think that front can be against Notre Dame's offensive line and run game?
Yeah, I think, look, Bain and Mesidor are as good a college defensive ends. I mean, I think Bain's an NFL player as well on Sundays, but those are two good starters as you can have in college football. At those edge positions, Mesidor started over 29 games in his career. He's been productive. So you have the experience there. It really does come down, though, to Justin Scott in that D tackle spot and how much pressure he and David Blay and Ahmad Moten and some of the other guys that they've got playing in the middle can take off of them. Because if Notre Dame can double some of these guys, they can shut down Ruben Bain, they can shut down Mesidor, they can get Jeremiah Love out on the edge, and they can give CJ Carr all the time in the world to throw. So I think Miami really needs Justin Scott to step up into a much bigger role. They had a really good defensive tackle last year, second team all conference performer, and Simeon Barrow, who came over from Michigan State. He's gone. They've lost some other veterans. Tyler Brown was a 5th round draft pick in the NFL out on the edge. So you're counting on Bain and Mesidor not only to be really good on the edge, but you're counting on a guy like Justin Scott to step up his game in year 2. And it's going to be an interesting battle. To me, Miami's entire season comes down to who sort of emerges at that D tackle position to help out Ruben Bain and Mesidor.
What did Justin Scott do last year? I understand that he wasn't the starter, was playing behind some really good players, but did he show flashes at all that sort of made you feel confident about his 5-star rating coming out of high school?
Yeah, I mean, look, 113 snaps, 7 tackles, 2 for loss, and a sack. So not a lot of opportunity, but he averaged about 10 to 12 snaps a game, and every time he was in there, you felt like, okay, this is a guy who earned his 5-star rating, right? Like, he's capable of it. He can be something for you given the opportunity. But anytime you go into a season and you look at the D tackle position and say, man, we don't have a lot of experience there. David Blay, the transfer from Louisiana Tech, he was all conference USA first team. He is the most experienced D tackle that they have, and he started 13 games in his career. So after that, you have Ahmad Moten, you got Scott. Moten started 2 games in his career. Armando Blunt is another former 5-star. He's played 52 snaps in his career last year as a true freshman. So you're really young at that spot. Miami didn't go out and pour money in the transfer portal to find another veteran guy. They just believed that Scott was ready for the moment. So we will find out on Sunday whether or not he is.
We've already alluded to it. Miami gave up a ton of explosive plays last season. They brought in several new defensive backs. I mentioned this yesterday. I love the young corners, Frederick Jr. and Xavier Lucas from Wisconsin. I think they're really good, but I'm not really sure what to expect from the safeties because they haven't even started a game in the Power 4 yet. So with Corey Heatherman, do you expect him to be a little bit more aggressive on defense, especially going up against a quarterback in CJ Carr who is making his first start? Or will they play it a little bit more conservative to try to avoid some explosive plays?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they trust some of these young corners one-on-one with Notre Dame's receivers. I think they're going to trust them to do their job, which may free up some blitzers and some blitzes from whatever side they want decide to bring it from to put pressure on CJ Carr. I think the idea is to pressure CJ Carr and to make him uncomfortable as often as possible. But look, Notre Dame's got the X factor. They've got Jeremiah Love in that backfield, and I think number one, Miami has to do a good job of containing him. If Love and those backs are having a field day, it's not going to matter what Miami does in coverage or what they do in terms of bringing the pressure. They got to be able to limit the run and force CJ Carr into some situations where he has to make a play.
How much do you think the Miami coaching staff was following the Notre Dame quarterback competition? Because it was obviously everything that we talked about. It became a big topic nationally. And even though Notre Dame limited their practice access as much as possible, some stuff got out. And I feel like Miami was pretty in tune with what was going on, or at least as much as possible.
Yeah, I think, look, obviously there's only so much you can go on with either quarterback, right? Carr's got four career snaps and Minchie 17. So there's not a lot of college film. So I'm pretty sure they were well prepared to face both of these quarterbacks in terms of studying their high school tape and knowing what they knew. But I was always of the feeling that Carr was the guy. I don't think you let a guy like Steve Angeli walk unless you're fully confident in the best young quarterback on your roster. And everything I had heard, it was CJ Carr. So I think most of the Miami guys have a lot of respect for Carr. They know how good he is. The people in the recruiting department certainly do. And so it'll be interesting to see how things shake out on Sunday night in his first start. But I think there's a lot of respect for him as a passer.
So when you picture how this game plays out, what kind of game do you expect? Is it going to be a slugfest? I'm telling everyone, take the under. This feels like an under game, but I don't know. Miami played in a bunch of shootouts last season, so what are you kind of expecting to see on Sunday night?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think this is going to be a lower scoring ball game. I think it's going to come down to really which team establishes the run and can rely on it consistently to make their quarterbacks comfortable and put them in a comfortable situation. I think Jeremiah Love's the best running back in this game, hands down. But Miami might have a really good capable backfield themselves that does a good job as well. We'll find out Sunday night. So I think it's going to be low scoring. I ultimately picked the Hurricanes to win because they're at home and this is CJ Carr's first start in a loud, raucous environment. It's not going to be comfortable, but I think it's going to be low scoring, and I think it will be a slugfest.
Give me what we expect the biggest difference maker would be if Miami were to win and if Notre Dame were to win.
Yeah, I think for Miami, they keep Jeremiah Love in check, right? They force CJ Carr to have to make plays, and maybe they get him into some turnovers. I think that's how Miami wins this game. They play turnover free or as close to turnover free as possible, and are able to run the football well and control the line of scrimmage. I think Notre Dame wins this game if Jeremiah Love has a field day running the football. I think it's pretty simple. I think to me, Carr being his first start, I mean, very rarely do you see a true freshman come in day one and light up an opposing team. He's got some good receivers. He's got some experienced guys that can catch the ball. Certainly, between Pauling and Fields and even Greathouse and Faison. I mean, they've all played football and been productive, so they can make the plays. I think it just comes down to does he play turnover free and smart football? And if he does, he probably does because Jeremiah Love's having a good day running the football.
Manny, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us and share your insight on the Hurricanes. This has been awesome. And you can follow his coverage over at The Athletic and check out the Wide Right podcast for even more Miami perspective. Thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Good talking to you.
All right, that'll do it for today's episode. Thanks again for making Locked On Irish your first watch or listen of the day. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you've been enjoying the preview content, please like, rate, and review as well. Consider this the last call for tomorrow's Friday mailbag. It is one of my favorite shows of the week. As always, you can drop your questions in the YouTube comments or send them over on X at Locked On Irish or on Instagram at Locked On Irish Pod. I'm going to be back here tomorrow with that full mailbag episode. And then on Saturday, we'll have a bonus episode for you to get ready for the game on Sunday. But until tomorrow, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on Friday.